Oh, good. This is February 16th, 2021. It is 6:50 p.m. and this is a online meeting of the Somerville Historic Preservation Commission. I'd like to just introduce everybody present. My name is Alan Bingham. I'm the chair of the commission at present. Dick?
I'm Dick Bauer. I live on Berkeley Street. I'm an attorney and I was trained as a city planner.
Robin?
I am Robin Kelly. I'm the realtor representative on the commission, and I'm also a historic homeowner in Union Square.
Ryan?
Hi, Ryan Falvey. I'm a resident of Ward 2.
And Adam?
I'm Adam Wiley, resident of Ward 2 and a contractor and construction manager.
And Eric?
That's hi, I'm Eric Parks. I'm an architect and a resident of Ward 3.
And staff?
I'm Sarah White. I am a senior zoning and preservation planner for the city.
Okay. With that said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to commence the meeting. And the first order of business is HPC 2013.085 9 to 11 Aldersley Street for a revision to an approved certificate of appropriateness. Are the attendees here?
Yes, Edward Lonergan is here. Ed, I am unmuting you right now. And please make sure, can you hear us?
I'm going to recuse myself, so I'm going to check out here.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Okay, so that's Eric Parks recusing himself.
Could I ask any of the board members, if you're not actively speaking, could you put yourselves on mute so we don't get background noise? And then just unmute yourselves when you're ready to speak. Mr. Lonergan, I've unmuted you on my end. Can you hear us, and are you unmuted on your end?
Is he there?
He is there. Ed, it says that you're self-muted, so you just need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
How are you?
This gets tougher and tougher. I'm sorry.
Okay, you've put in for a revision of the approved certificate of appropriateness. Would you like to tell us about this, please?
Basically, when we had worked on these plans for over 20 years, we had an oversight in the last submission that an exterior porch on the left side of Building A was included in the plans that went to the DBA, and they picked up on an inconsistency. So this is an amendment to make sure that the plans are all consistent.
All right. Let me just open this up for the commissioners. Commissioners, any thoughts on this? Have you looked at these plans? Dick?
So I looked and I don't think I had any particular opinions about it. I did want to ask Sarah from her point of view whether you had any opinions.
Thank you, Dick, and Mr. Chairman, through you, Sarah White, senior planner. I think that the challenge here is that if that portion of the porch is allowed to be built as it was originally presented, it would violate the left side yard setback. So it's a zoning issue that it creates. This is the left-hand side of the property. I have less of an issue with this than if I didn't see it on the right side of the property, honestly, because I think it tends to be a little bit more complete on the right. I think eliminating it is the easiest thing than trying to figure out another design solution for it. So, generally speaking, I really don't have an issue with it.
Okay. Adam, Robin, Ryan, any thoughts?
I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns with that approach.
Yeah, I took a pass by the property earlier and had a look at it, and quite frankly, I don't think it's going to I think it's no problem from my perspective. Adam, did you have any thoughts on this?
No, I agree with everyone's opinion of it. I don't have any issue with it.
All right, as this is a public hearing, what I'd like to do is I'd like to open it up for any public comment. Is there any member from the public that would like to comment on this?
I am looking to see if there are any hands raised using the raise your hand feature. And I do not see any. Charlotte, do you see any? I don't think I'm missing anybody.
Julie Schneider briefly raised her hand and is flicking it on and off. They may wish to speak. Julie, you are unmuted. You appear to be self-muted, so you'll need to make sure your microphone is green. If it's red, it means you are still self-muted and will need to unmute yourself.
And a reminder to any member of the public who speaks on any case, it's your comment time is limited to 2 minutes, which Charlotte will keep track of.
And before you start the comment, I'd like to know your name.
Julie Schneider, can you hear me now?
We can, Julie, thank you.
Okay, I live at 14 Aldersea Street. I've been part of working on this also for probably the 20 years. I wanted to thank the board, and I want to thank the planner, because I thought that what was online from the discussion you had in November was clear. You showed the old plan and how you were changing it. It was very clear with the circles, and I just want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for continuing to kind of look at what comes in and to stay on top of it.
Thank you,
I
Julie.
want to thank you mostly because it's been a lot of work, and I think it ended up being better than it would have been. Much better. So thanks.
Thank
And
you.
it looked like it took a lot
We
of
all
work.
appreciate that.
Yeah, so thanks very much.
Thank you. It's nice to hear.
You know, I wanted a sculpture garden there, right? So I've come a long way to acceptance, grief, acceptance, you know, the whole thing. But anyway, thank you.
Sorry, we changed the zoning.
Okay, okay,
All
thanks
right.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any other members of the public present who would like to comment? Charlotte?
Chair Bingham, I am not seeing anyone else indicating that they would wish to speak on this case.
Okay, then, given that we can't see anybody else wishing to comment, I'd like to close the public comment section of this and bring it back to the commissioners. So, commissioners, we're voting to revise the certificate of appropriateness that was granted on this, and that revision would be for the removal of the porch on the left-hand elevation of the ground story of Building A. I'd like to put this, yes, Sarah, you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, there is one other consideration for you as well. Yes, the porch, absolutely. However, if you take a look at the plan set, the revised plan set, the applicant has revised them to incorporate the small windows that you had wanted to see on Building C. I think that that's contained, I think it might be condition number 6 or 13, I forget which. So do you have it in front of you, Adam? Which condition is that?
Yeah, I think it was 6. The highlighted note,
6. Okay.
wish to vote to remove condition number 6 as the required windows have been incorporated into the ZBA approved plans.
Mhm. And now if you are approving this plan set, you are in essence also approving those, the renderings of those small windows on Building C. So if you decided to do that, then you could vote to accept the changes with the elimination of the left elevation front porch on Building A and the elimination of the original condition number 6 for Building C, because that condition has been met in the revised plan set.
Before we take this to the vote, does anybody have any comment on the window issue? No?
I do not.
All right. So we'll be voting on a revision to, on a revised approval of certificate of appropriateness for 9 to 11 Aldersley Street. And this is to incorporate the new plans, which is also condition 6, and also the removal of the open porch on the left of building A on the elevation. I'd like to put that to the vote. All those in favor of accepting this certificate of appropriateness, please say aye.
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 Okay. I need to do a roll call for the record. Dick?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Eric? Sorry. Eric has recused himself. Okay. Therefore, Edward, we've approved the revision for your plans. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. With that, what I'd like to move on to is the next items on the list of the agenda for tonight, which are determinations of historic significance. And the first one of those would be HPC.DMO 2020.27 129 Boston Avenue. Eamon Fee is the applicant. Is Eamon here?
Yes, he is, Mr. Chairman. I will. Oh, there are a lot of people here. Okay, Eamon, I've unmuted you on my end. Just make sure you have unmuted yourself on your end.
Are you there, Eamon?
Eamon, it says you're muted on your end. You'll just need to unmute yourself. There
Okay,
you go.
can you hear me now, guys?
Yes, I can.
Very good, very good.
So, Eamon, were you present online when we all introduced ourselves?
Yes, I was present for the last session.
Good. Yeah, you've put in an application for determination of significance of this property at 129 Boston Avenue. Would you like to explain this to us, please?
Yes, I have. Alan, me and my business partner, Kevin Emery, we bought this property quite a couple of months ago. We closed on it not too long ago, maybe a month ago, from Mr. Galvin. It was a single family house. We personally would like to develop it into a 2-family house. And, we don't really believe that there's any historical significance about the house. We read the report and stuff, and you know, the house has quite a bit of vinyl siding, replacement windows, plastic shutters, unoriginal front porch, roof decking and metal railings. It's quite a boring look, and we'd like to build something that's, well, we try to cherry pick from the neighborhood the best features in the neighborhood, but we already have submitted the Sarah plan for what we'd like to do, and I think that whatever we do there is going to be an improvement, and it's going to be, you know, in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. Look, quite nice.
I'd like to add that, you know, this house
Who's speaking, please?
Sorry, it's Kevin Emery. I'm part owner of the house. I'd like to stress that, you know, when this house was originally built, it's not what's there now. It's pretty much a vinyl. The house we want to do fits the neighborhood a lot better than the house is there now. And we went to great lengths to design a house that would fit that neighborhood and all the houses in that neighborhood. I grew up like 2-3 blocks away from there, and I still own the property at 9 Mallet Street. And it's a house that's pretty similar to this design also. You know, with the Campbell, almost like a Philadelphia colonial Campbell on the 3rd floor with dormers on the sides. And like you said, these houses, I think, historically more in the neighborhood than the houses there now. And like I said, we went to great lengths to design some, because I've been in front of the board before, not so much lately, but I've been in front of the board before. And I know the board's wishes are, if they're gonna grant permission to knock the house down, they want to make sure what's going back there is significant in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, I'm getting a lot of background feedback. I don't know if everybody else is, but I'd ask if people that are not talking to keep their mic on mute. Thank you. So I'm presuming from this that you'd be looking for total demolition.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be the
Thank you
case.
very much for that. I'd like to open this up then to the commissioners for discussion. I'd like to start off by saying that I took a run by this and had a good look at the place. And yes, there's a lot of vinyl there, but the structure itself is very consistent with the streetscape in the street. I'm not sure how a building with larger massing would look in that streetscape. And the building itself seems to be in quite good condition. That's my observation from the outside. Other commissioners?
This is Adam Wiley speaking. I would just echo, I mean, in this particular case, there does not seem to be a lot of architectural details. In my opinion, the gambrel roof being consistent with other structures is what makes it potentially significant. And then I also just wanted to point out and remind everyone that we actually, on this board, we aren't allowed to have an opinion about what's going to get put in its place. We're strictly trying to evaluate whether or not this structure is significant. So what you're proposing to put back actually does not really influence part of our decision. So I just wanted to note that and note that our focus is on the structure itself.
I appreciate that. I just, from my experience, I know the board was, you know, vote on it, but they were always concerned about what's going back there. So that's why I brought it up. Thank you.
Other commissioners, any thoughts?
Yeah, I also have driven by it and looked at it, and I can see the points there. I think its biggest asset is that it's part of a grouping of two. It's a mirror of the one next to it. So it's a newer building. It's still past 50 years old. It's 1921, I think you conjectured in your report there. It's sort of on the fence about it. Like I could see the point about it not being as scarce or rare, that particular building form, and it's not ancient. It does have a value on its streetscape in that it mirrors the one next to it, and also just its general massing. It's a very cohesive 2.5-story stretch of road there. But that's not really historic. That's more of a design review kind of thing. So I don't have a really definitive comment other than to say I could kind of go either way on it.
Hi, this is Robin, and I think, you know, I'm echoing a lot of sentiments that have already been shared, but we don't see gambrels very often in Somerville, and so that's a bit refreshing, particularly where it is presented in a pair and among another, you know, sort of a larger grouping of these shorter in stature buildings. You know, that there aren't the much taller 2 3/4 buildings or triple deckers or things. And so in terms of its original massing and its position on the street, I think is important.
This is Dick, and I would echo all of those comments. And although it does have a lot of vinyl on it, as Alan said, the entire structure is there. The fenestration, the windows have not been changed. The doorway, other than the vinyl itself, it looks like it's quite intact and complete. And particularly with the sister building next door, gives you quite a good idea of what it looked like when it was built 100 years ago.
Yeah. Ryan, do you have any opinion on this? Any thoughts?
I haven't been to the site. It's been helpful to hear comments from those who have, and we hear about the sister building because the context of how it fits in the neighborhood is often helpful. So based on those observations, I support the point of view that Robin shared and that Dick reinforced as well.
All right. Good. Well, with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to open this up to any public comments. Charlotte, are you seeing any hands raised for public comments?
Mr. Chair, I'm not yet seeing any hands raised. As a reminder to the public, if you wish to speak on a particular application, raise your hand and we will unmute you one by one. Brad Richards, you are unmuted. Make sure you unmute yourself as well. There you go.
Hi, everybody. The homeowner next door at 133 Boston Ave, and just wanted to weigh in on appreciating the two buildings as mirror images of each other and sort of their scale in our stretch of Boston Ave, where we don't have much taller buildings. We have two-story multifamilies, but not the three-story ones that are on Highland Road around the corner. That's it. Just wanted to make it known that, you know, those of us who've lived there for a while appreciate those two single families sort of holding their own in the midst of the other buildings.
All right. Thank you very much. Charlotte, is there anybody else you can see from the public who'd like to comment on this?
Shane McMahon, I'm really butchering this, but I think you know, there you go. Yeah, Shane. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Shane McMahon, MCMAHON McMahon. Thanks for having the forum. Appreciate the background. Just really wanted to, I think, echo Brad's comments. I am the neighbor who lives in the mirror image, I guess, as it's been referred to, Gambrel House at 125 Boston Ave. So just, you know, definitely, you know, appreciate the, you know, just the architecture of the house and just how it fits on the street and, you know, how it sort of fits into the overall neighborhood and the, just the significance within the neighborhood. So thank you for the opportunity to weigh in.
Thank you very much. Charlotte, is there anybody else?
Molly Hester. Molly, you are unmuted. Molly, you'll need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, this is like the 6th webinar interface I'm learning. So I'm sure everyone else is. Yeah, so my name is Molly Hester. I live next to Shane. So I'm at 121 Boston Avenue. And I was the one who asked the question about the future plans. I would echo, again, what my neighbor said. The Boston Avenue has a very strong theme and style to it. The two Gambrel houses next to each other are quite refreshing. And I would maybe ask for more information from the commission about if we have a weigh-in for what does go back there and how the commission does support preserving the historic look of our neighborhood.
Well, Molly, let me just amplify on what Adam had said earlier. Our role here is in historic preservation, which means we're only looking at what is there today. We're not looking into any futures. If you're interested in any futures, what you would need to do would be to talk to the owners of the property, who I believe are Kevin and Eamon at this point in time, as to what their plans are. That doesn't touch us at all. Our only responsibility right now is to look at the significance of this property as it stands on the street. And we look at the significance in several ways. We look at it from the architectural significance, which is guided by the guidelines from the National Park Service and also the Secretary of the Interior. And we also look at it from the historical, cultural side of it and its importance to the city. So in considering these things, we have definite guidelines that we need to follow. So I hope that's helpful for you. But let me just explain a little bit further too, for those that are listening. If somebody applies for a demolition of a property, then what happens is that this is a multi-step process. If that building is over 75 years of age, as this particular building is. And the first step is to determine the significance of it historically to the city and in those historic architectural and cultural contexts. Now, if tonight we decide that it's significant, then that basically starts a process where next month we'll get together again and determine whether it should be preferably preserved and what that preferably preserved means. Now, in some cases, we've looked at preferably preserved meaning actually moving it to another site or changing it or keeping parts of it intact and adding to it. Or it could mean, and this has happened in places down near Union Square now where they're building a station and the Green Line, it might mean a photographic documentation and architectural drawings and archiving those for the future history of the city, where something needs to be removed because of some reason like that. But then after we determine that it's preferably preserved and what that means, then basically that starts a process of 12 months that we have to negotiate with the owners and come to a meeting of the minds before any demolition can take place. So I hope that explains the process to you. We can't look at what's going to go there. We don't. It's always interesting to know what somebody has in mind, but that's of no consequence really to the decision that we make under our charter. Okay, Molly?
Alan, thank you very much for that information. It's very helpful, and I appreciate the patience of the commission members as well as the other people in this meeting who probably already knew this. And I appreciate, as a recent homeowner on Boston Avenue, that you have taken the time to explain that. I'd like to just say one more thing. Our downstairs neighbors, so the owners of Unit 1 of 121 Boston Avenue, so Giuseppina Stefano and Salvatore Ricciuti, have to go feed their girls dinner, but they texted me and asked me to speak on their behalf, that they agree with the pleasant side-by-side gambrel look of the houses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate public comment. And on that, the spirit of that, Charlotte, do you see any more hands raised?
Mr. Chair, I'm not seeing any more hands raised on this case.
All right. Then having no more public comment being asked for by the public, I'd like to close that section and come back to the commissioners. And what we're looking at now with the commissioners is the significance of the property, which is 129 Boston Avenue. Do any of the commissioners have anything further they'd like to add to this? No?
What's that?
Then what I'd like to do is I'd like to put this to the vote on the determination of significance. And what we're going to do is we're going to vote as to whether we believe this to be significant or not. So we're voting on the significance of 129 Boston Avenue, HBC.DMO 2020.27. And I'd like to call a roll call after we vote. All those in favor of declaring it significant, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
What I'll do is call the roll. Dick?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Okay.
Mark Sternman here too. I apologize for being late. I came in the middle of this conversation, so I'm going to abstain on this one. Thank you.
Thank you for coming back in, Mark. Good. Now, what we need to do is we need to determine the findings as to why we found this to be significant.
Oh, Alan,
Yeah?
you vote?
Yes, I voted yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I even checked myself, Eric.
You're good.
Yes, I did. So it was unanimous from the commissioners. So the findings as to why we found it significant. And I would like to suggest to you that one of the findings that I would have is that this is one of two adjacent gambrels which are unique in the area and provide a certain harmonious streetscape to the area. And that this building is intact as far as the massing and details are concerned, even though some of them appear to be covered with plastic.
I would agree with that, Alan. I think that's kind of what sold it for me is the fact, well, you could probably find other colonial, Dutch colonial type small scale houses. They're, as Robin said, they're not that common. And the fact that they're two side by side like this is sort of a distinct aspect of this. So I agree that's it. And the general scarcity of that building type in Somerville. There are others, but it's not that common.
And I would add the fact that although it has vinyl siding on it, it seems completely intact in terms of its massing, its fenestration. It has not been changed significantly at all.
Adam, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I was just writing them all down. I think those are, I think we got them all. I agree with all those.
Robin, have you got any thoughts here?
Nothing more to add.
Nothing more to add. All right, then, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a vote on the findings as we describe them. And the findings are that it's significant because it's one of two adjacent gambrels in the street, which are rare in Somerville, and the massing and fenestration appear to be intact with the building. Is there anything else we need to add to that? Okay. All those in favor of adopting those findings, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Once again, I'll call the roll. Dick?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I say yes. Ed?
Yes.
And Eric?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is Mark again, and I will abstain again.
And you'll still abstain. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, Eamon and Kevin, basically, we'll see you back here next month to discuss preferably preserved issues with the structure. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alan.
And thank you to the members of the public who participated in this. Much appreciated. Okay, moving along, I'd like to come to the next one, which is HPC.DMO 2021.01 13 Allen Street. Is the applicant here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Anne Vigorito is here. I'm going to unmute her.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening. This is Anne Vigorito, the attorney for the applicant. The applicant is not here. I'm here on his behalf.
Okay, could you repeat your name again for the record, please?
Sure. Anne, and then the last name is Vigorito. V as in Victor, I-G-O-R-I-T-O.
Okay, thank you. All right, would you like to explain to us the application, please?
Yes, this is an application for a demolition of the building at 13 Allen Street. My contention, along with the applicant, is that there is no architectural or historical significance to this building. I did go through the lengthy report prepared by the historical department, and I had made notes, even taken from my own. I mean, 13 Allen Street has undergone some considerable alterations over the years. And I know there was a comparison between 13 and 42 Allen, and side by side, they look completely different. The windows have been modernized at 13 Allen. I mean, it's an extensive disrepair. Our contention is that this is little to no historical significance. And then also there was I would guess we'd call it maybe a three-pronged test, or 3 different scenarios. One was the house had been rotated from its original orientation. I do think that's a possibility. The second was that the shape of the house was improperly depicted on the historic maps. I don't know if that necessarily could have occurred, but number 3 is that this is a much earlier house altogether. And, you know, looking at a lot of the, I'll say the word evidence as an attorney, things that were put in this report, and seeing the house myself, I would kind of think there's a merger perhaps of 1 and 3. You know, it could have been an earlier house there, and you know, this was back in 1874, and a lot happened in those 145 years or so. But I don't think this building, especially when it's being compared to another house on Allen Street, has a historical significance of that, of say 42 Allen Street. So I would respectfully request that you would vote to find this not historically significant. Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, you're looking for total demolition?
That is correct.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to open this up to, before I go, Attorney Vigorito, were you able to listen into my explanation of what the procedure and the process is?
Yes, I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we don't need to reintroduce ourselves to you.
I'm going to mute myself now so there's no background noise.
Good, thanks. Okay, I'd like to open this up to the commissioners now for discussion.
Hi, it's Robin Kelly, and I really enjoyed reading this report, all of the history about this specific area and rope walks and all that really good historical information. And I think trying to piece together, you know, how this structure might have come to be is also intriguing. But unfortunately, what exists today is such a hodgepodge and so modified over time, the roof line, the fenestration, any exterior, you know, envelope details. I'm not seeing much kind of historic fabric there. That's where I'm coming down on this.
Okay. Thank you, Robin. Eric, are you trying to talk because you're muted?
I was muted, sorry about that. Are we just, I got a little confused. We're focusing on 13 at the moment. I thought for some reason that we're starting off with the other side of the block. And my comments are kind of multifaceted because I do somewhat agree with Robin on this particular house. But then there's this blanket. We're looking at basically the removal of that entire side of this. Well, that's being a little hyperbolic there, but we're looking at removing 5 or 6 houses from there on down. So I simultaneously view this in the context of a bunch of houses that are similar in massing, whereas where it has more value On the flip side, as Robin pointed out, it's been highly modified. I do think that they raised the roof and put the gambrel on there more recently to get some kind of funky headroom. So that particular house, I would probably question whether it has enough significance left to it. But within the context of what's going on that street, where you have actually very important little niche houses, especially Beckwith Union Square, it's kind of doing double duty. So I don't know what to say about it. I mean, taking that site as by itself, which I guess we should, I would say I tend to skew away from significance on that particular house with some reservations.
Good. Dick, Ryan, Adam, thoughts?
I think I come out in about the same place as Ryan, and I'm not sure how different we are from Robin, feeling some misgivings about just writing off essentially everything on that street, and they've certainly all been messed up in a lot of different ways. I was really struck, particularly for 42, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit, about how different it is from a photograph from just 40 years ago. But I share Eric's misgivings about just letting it all be taken down. But at the same time, I think I share Robin's feeling that there's just not enough there to be worth saving. Eric, does that feel like it ultimately comes out in a different place from where you are?
No, that's not it. I'm looking ahead to the other cases that clearly I would imagine there's an intent to develop all of them together, but that's not what we hear about now. Usually we talk about neighborhood context. There seems to be an intent here to remove the neighborhood context with all these buildings going away. And I think, jumping ahead, that the other ones are extremely valuable and that they're 160 years old. They're simple. They represent the working families that get a voice there. I think this particular house, in its own, yeah, I agree, Dick. I think you've kind of reflected my opinion there.
Hi, this is Robin again, and Sarah, Alan, or Dick, could you just confirm we cannot consider any other cases, correct? We need to consider this in isolation.
Correct.
This is Dick, and I'm not sure that I agree with that. That is, we have to consider each structure on its own, but part of what we consider can be the streetscape. And so it seems to me fair for us to be thinking about the other houses on the street in making the decision about this house.
I would caution on that, only because I understand where you're coming from on the streetscape, and this was like a difficult month to get ready for when I see so many things coming up on Allen Street. Although to be honest with you, it made the research quite a bit easier. So that was a plus. But I think, I guess I hesitate a little bit because we do look at each structure on its own merits. We tend to look at, yes, we do look at the streetscape. We tend to look at it more in LHDs, but I would worry about the fairness to subsequent applicants. Like if this were to be considered, like let's say you were moving towards not historically significant, but you decided to vote it historically significant because of what somebody else was going to do down the street. That I would be very, that they were looking to demolish their buildings as well. I really hesitate on that. I really feel very insecure if almost like one were being used against the other.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but I'd also hasten to point out that other places, properties on the street that have applied for demolition review or significance are not owned by the same person. And also, there's another property on the street, 17, that is in between some of these properties that is not listed here as well. So it's not as though you're looking at taking out a completely contiguous block of buildings, Robert. And I think looking at them individually is something that we have to do. But as Dick says, we have to look at them also in the context of the streetscape and how it impacts the streetscape. But I take your point on unduly influencing decisions on others.
And I understand where everybody on the board is coming from. You know, it's definitely a challenging, it's a challenging discussion tonight.
By the way, I agree that your reports are great. Sarah, it was really fun reading about that, the roadblock and all that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted. I have to say the one thing that did strike me about this property was its similarity to 42. If you look at 42 is not up for discussion, but if you look at 42 and what 42 used to look like, and if you take a look at 13, and you know the gambrel is not original, but and you look at where that fascia line was, and then the way that the house is structured, that to me looks like that they were very, very, very similar buildings at the time. Now both have been radically changed, but yeah. But thank you for that. I was really curious, kind of, to see what Adam thought too, our preservation contractor, about how he thought the building might have morphed, as well as our architects.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of this neighborhood is kind of similar to mine, and I think I would lean more towards, I forget if it was Eric or Dick, but it feels like the roof and the dormer, I'd almost say happened in the 70s or 80s. It feels very new to me, the way the roof and the dormers were added. So that was just my gut feel of it, and I agree with Robin that because of that roof and dormer work, it feels like a completely different structure than what it probably was. But yeah, I was guessing that work was relatively new.
All right. Any other thoughts at this point in time, commissioners? And because this is a public meeting, I'd like to open it up for any public discussion. Charlotte, are there any members of the public present who would like to comment on this?
This is Charlotte speaking. Members of the public, if you have not been at earlier public hearings, raise your hand is the way that you indicate that you wish to speak. We will give you a minute or two to do that. But Chair Bingham, I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand at this time. Oh, yep, one person, Bill Cavallini.
I'm sorry, what's her name?
Bill Cavallini. He'll need to unmute himself and then state it for the record along with his address.
Okay.
Bill, you are unmuted. There you go.
Sorry, it's not Bill. I'm his wife. My name is Kate Byrne, and we live at 33 Oak Street in Somerville. And I am actually the president of the board of the Community Action Agency of Somerville. And we have a property at 29 Allen Street, the Jack Hamilton Center. And so we have a lot of concerns about what is going to happen in this area if a number of the houses are demolished and up for more buildings. So that I just want to raise that as our concern. We also, you know, the Jack Hamilton Center also uses that wonderful little park that just got opened up across the street on Allen Street. Yeah, I'm just bringing this as our concern, because we really need to be involved in some way in what's happening here. You know, the ownership of our property.
Okay, well, thank you for that. We appreciate that comment. As I stated earlier, what our charter is in the Historic Preservation Commission is to look at each structure on its own architectural and cultural merits to the city. And we have strict guidelines for that. We're not taking into consideration anything that may or may not be put there in the future. Doesn't matter whether it's a park or another structure or what that is going to be. That's not our purview. We're only limited to the historic significance of the structure that stands there today. But I still thank you for your comments. Charlotte, is there anybody else who'd like to comment?
Mr. Chair, I'm not seeing anyone else with their hand raised indicating that they would wish to speak at this time.
Okay, then with that said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to close that section of the meeting for the public. And I'd like to come back to the commissioners. Do any of the commissioners have anything they would like to add? Mark, I haven't heard from you at all.
This one seems to be, alas, more mystery than history. So I would say, from what I've read, it is not significant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other comments? All right, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to vote on this. We're going to vote on the significance of 13 Allen Street, which is HPC.DMO 2021.01. And we're voting on whether it's significant or not. All those in favor of saying that it's significant, please say aye. Aye? Any ayes? All those in favor of declaring it not significant, please say aye.
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 Okay. So we're declaring 13 Allen as not significant. And I'd like to now look at the reasons why we find it to be not significant. From what I've heard is that we feel as though it has changed so much over the years that it has very few, if any, redeeming historical characteristics that would make it significant historically in architecture to the city. Is there anything we'd like to add to that?
I think, to me, it's about the level of modification. Because if it were, if we could establish that it looked like that since 1860 and say, well, that's part of the character. It seems to be a bit of an anomaly. Also, to back up, do we usually do findings for cases where we don't vote something in? Okay, didn't remember doing that. Anyway, those are my thoughts. It's more about the level of modification, and it's incongruity with the houses around it. That's a word, incongruity.
Incongruity is definitely a word in the English language. Nick, Ryan, Robin, any other thoughts on this? Anything you'd like to add?
I have nothing to add myself.
Yeah, no, nothing more to add.
I think just a minor detail, we've talked about the form changing, but also maybe one thing if there was some historic fabric or material left in the windows or the porch, but I think it's also lacking in any original historic fabric or material as well. So we can maybe add that.
Yeah, and in fact, that's true, Adam. I've been down twice to look at this now, and I agree with that completely.
Yeah,
Second time is have a closer look.
I thought maybe the porch might have some hint of what was there, but when I zoomed in, it does not.
No. Okay. So given that those are our findings, I'm looking for a vote to accept those findings. All those in favor of accepting the findings as stated, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll do once again the roll call, which is Dick.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Alan. Yes. Adam.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
And Mark.
Yes.
Okay. Then Attorney Vigorito, I will be back in contact with you regarding the significance or the non-significance of the property at 13 Allen Street. All right?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you later on tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night. The next case I'd like to move on to is HPC.DMO 2021.02, which is 21 to 23 Allen Street. So, Charlotte, other parties here. I have Jean Martelli.
He is not here, Mr. Chairman. This is Sarah White, but we have Philip Sema, who I'm unmuting. Phil, if you could unmute yourself.
I also believe Julian Lewis is one of the individuals associated with this application.
Correct. And Maxwell Shortsleeve. Phil, who else should I be unmuting?
Caleb should be unmuted for this as well, and I think Andrew Tuccio should be as well.
Caleb Manchester and Andrew Tuccio. Okay. All right, they are all unmuted. And for the members of the commission, as you can see, again, Allen Street, the basic history is all the same, made my life so easy. Everything else, not so much.
Okay, then would the applicants like to talk to us about this particular site?
Sure. This is Caleb Manchester. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I am the applicant and partner at 19-27 Allen Street LLC. Obviously joined by Phil Sema, who's our architectural consultant. We filed a demo authorization permit to demolish essentially 5 structures on a couple of different properties. There are 4 residential structures and a shed. Obviously, basically abutting the previous applicant and buildings in similarly relatively dilapidated condition, at this point mostly unoccupied. We haven't determined the structural capacity of the buildings yet, but we are seeking to fully demolish all 5 structures.
So currently we are looking at the case which involves 21-23 Allen Street. Just to clarify with you, we're not looking at 27 Allen Street.
Mr. Chairman, yes, if I could, Caleb, they have to take each designated property separately. So, okay, so it's just 21-23, those 3 buildings. The ones that you were calling 19 Allen Street, I had written to the rest of the applicant team. That is less than 75 years old and is not under their purview. And then 27 Allen Street is taken up separately after this.
Okay, so you're looking at a total demolition of these buildings. That's what you're applying for. Significances. Okay, so you can proceed. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to open this up to the commissioners for discussion.
I have one question to start. I know that we're considering these cases separately, but in this particular case, are we considering 21 and 23 separately also? Or are we going to be voting separately on those 2 structures?
We'll be voting separately on them, but they are in the one application.
That's correct, because they all
I think we have to handle them
one.
separately, Adam.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you'll have to make findings separately for each one. So I laid out like the architectural description of each one separately and your vote as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So commissioners, comments, inputs?
Sarah, I don't seem to have the report for 23. Could I ask you to send it to me and do others have it?
Yes, it's the 21-23. It's all one report.
No, I don't have that, I don't think.
I know you're on the email. I'll forward it to you again.
Okay, good, thank you. I have all the other reports, but I somehow don't seem to have that one.
So just so I'm clear on this here, the charge on this one is to look at each of the 3 properties that are on the picture here, 21 Allen, 23 Allen, and what they call the rear building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
They all just happen to be on one parcel. You know, back when things got combined in very odd ways, and you know, things got done on a wink and a nod sometimes. So you consider each building separately. So it is possible you could find one of the buildings to be historically significant, but not the other 2, or two and not the third, or vice versa. But you will need to discuss each one individually under the rubric of this one case.
How are we referring to the rear building? Does it have its own number?
No, it's only known as the rear building.
Okay.
The 21 and 23 are specifically numbered.
Well, I guess I would just jump right in. I think that my thought on the front two buildings, I'm kind of picking them the same, even though they have slightly different modifications, is that they have been tweaked a lot. One had a chimney added to the side there, but they retain a form that is kind of homogeneous with their time period and down the rest of the street, not the rest of the street, but other parts of the street. I think they kind of establish a much more important part of the streetscape in terms of their massing and their age and their presentation of the street. But for 21 and 23, the one in back is almost pristine. I was surprised. It has all its original wood windows, it appears, and it's in great shape. I mean, it's obviously needs work, but it hasn't been modified as much. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's like my first pass at my thought on those three buildings.
I think that's pretty accurate, Eric. And in looking at them, it looks like 21 probably has shingles underneath the vinyl siding, just the same as 23 does. And obviously the windows have gone through some replacement, as has the front door and so on. So I think if you look at 23, you'll see basically what 21 looked like as a mirror image, basically, some time back before it was updated. Want for a better term.
Hi, this is Robin. I think the front two houses taken with their neighbors, 17 and 27, create an important part of the streetscape, as they have retained their basic form and massing. You know, even though they've been modified extensively, the form and massing is still important, and particularly in the context of those neighboring properties. And then just as was it Eric who was just saying about the rear building, the amount of original detail that is retained there is kind of a delight, even though it looks to be in pretty rough condition overall. The brackets and original windows and everything were kind of a surprise to see there.
Right. Adam, do you have thoughts on this one at all?
Pretty consistent with what everyone said. I mean, I was immediately struck by some of the details still on that rear building and the cornice and the brackets, and I found it kind of interesting, just from a construction standpoint. It almost looks like the same company did the kind of the new fascia and flashing, and it's like they started to put new siding on the structure that has wood shingles, but then stopped. But then you can see there still looks like an original wood gutter and cornice on the side. So yeah, I think it's clear that, you know, we can see what these originally were, and there's traces of original building fabric. And then, yeah, I think the rear building is kind of a little gem and hidden surprise with, I mean, that cornice and bracket is really fun to see. So yeah, just kind of echoing what everyone has said already.
You know, I have to expand a little bit, but one of the things that struck me, I've been down that street before, but I'm always on my way to get somewhere else. That's actually kind of a diamond in the rough there. That little, I mean, Union Square is going to get, there's a lot going on there, as we know, and there are very few spots right in the square like that that so thoroughly project the character from 150 years ago with minor changes. I mean, changes to facades and things like that, but as a whole, that neighborhood is actually pretty tight. And it's obviously reflecting a wholly different socioeconomic group that doesn't get a lot of attention because those are workers, but that kind of like goes straight back to the beginning as much as we can. We have other really nice buildings in the square that are gems, but they're not part of a whole neighborhood. I just think that like this little street and then the one over there by, I think it's Emerson Street, between where Webster and Prospect come together, that are two little kind of treasures that way. So that gave me a little pause about these things. And even though they've been pretty modified with windows and siding, especially those two front buildings, I think they really do have some value there. It does that street.
This is Dick, and I want to share those comments. So this feels to me like there's just enough fabric together with enough streetscape.
All right. Mark, did you want to buy into this at all?
Yeah, I buy into it completely. I think the rear building is especially architecturally significant given all that's still there, but I think all three of them are, and I would vote to declare them all significant. Thank you.
Okay, now this is a public meeting. What I'd like to do is ask any members of the public present who'd like to comment on the 21 to 23 Allen Street application. Charlotte, are you seeing anybody?
Chair Bingham, at this time I'm not, but I want to give people a chance. If you have not been here, Bill Cavallini is unmuted again. Please state your name and address for the record again. Bill Cavallini.
Yes, Bill Cavallini, 33 Oak Street, and on the Union Square Neighborhood Council Board. We've been following what's happening on this street pretty closely because it borders on, as you all I'm sure know, on the US 2 property, which is about to go under construction. So all the backyards of these buildings on that side of Allen Street will be up against a 3-story garage that will be servicing high-rise, mid-rise buildings going up across from on Prospect and Washington. And that will be going up over the course of the next 15 years. What I want to point out is that, yes, part of a whole. This is a low-rise residential district. It's not dissimilar, I would argue, from the neighborhood that you all, at some point in the past, defined as historically significant and in fact should be almost historically preserved. I don't know if I have the exact terminology there, but across Prospect Street is a little neighborhood that is very precious and has many qualities similar to this neighborhood that's sandwiched between the impending mid and high-rise development and the Target site. And so I just want to point out that there is historical significance that has been designated in the past on the other side of Prospect Street. That is the other side of this US 2 development. And this is the east side of the US 2 development. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for your words on that. Charlotte, are you seeing anybody else?
Chair Bingham, I'm not seeing anyone else with their hand raised indicating that they would wish to speak.
Okay. Given that, what I'd like to do is close the public comment section of this particular item and bring this back to the commissioners to see if the commissioners would like to add anything to the thoughts already expressed. No? Okay. Then we're going to be looking at the significance, and I'd like to take this separately on the buildings. First of all, 21 and then 23. And Sarah, in looking at this, we've got the back building and the two front buildings. So what is the number of the back building? Or is that just still 21 to 23?
It's still part of 21 to 23, and it's just identified as rear building. And you could refer to it as rear building when you go through and make your findings on each one. So in the architectural description for each building, I've put the address, like 21 Allen Street, and a photo of the building next to it so that you know which one is 21 Allen. And so that'll help keep it in your mind as you go through it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's take 21 Allen Street to start with. Okay, and we're going to go through and we're going to look at these, first of all, on significance, then come back and look at them, the findings as to why. All right. So firstly, 21 Allen Street. All those in favor of finding that significant, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to do a roll call on that one. Dick?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brian? Brian? He's muted. I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
And Ryan, back to you.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now, yes.
All right. And 23 Allen Street. All those in favor of declaring that significant, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll do the roll call once more. That's Dick.
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And now the rear of 2123. All those in favor of declaring the rear building of 2123 significant, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And we'll do the roll call again. That's Dick.
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
Okay, now what I'd like to do is go back and look at the findings for each of these. And I'd like to start with 21 Allen Street. This is the place that actually has the vinyl siding on it. And I think what we're looking at here is massing, form, and its position in the street as one of several similar architectural merit. Would you agree with that, Eric?
Yeah, I think you've got everything I would there.
Adam, is there anything you'd like to add to that, or Robin?
That covers it for me.
I agree.
All right. And given those findings, I'm going to take a vote on those findings. All those in favor, please say aye. This is for 21 Allen Street. Aye.
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 Once again, I'll do the roll call. That's Dick.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
I say yes. Adam.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
And Mark.
Yes.
All right, moving on to 23. Looking at the findings for 23. This is the place with the blue shingles right next to 21. I see the same thing going for this in the way of massing, integrity, and form as with with 21. Is there anything anybody would like to add to that? I think it also has probably more reliable original windows in it.
Yeah, I think there's more traces of some like I think I see some wood gutters and some wood cornice along the side and windows. So I think there's more original fabric than the other.
Yeah, and it also the chimney is still intact. Any other thoughts on that, Eric?
No, I think that's it. It's the massing. But yeah, it's position on the streetscape relative to the buildings around it, its age, its form is still intact.
Okay. And what I'd like to do is take a vote on those findings.
Oh, before we go, sorry. Is there any point to adding their? And we occasionally would go into their relevance to the group of people that would have lived in these, which were the workers for the early industries of Union Square, the glass, the packing, that kind of stuff. Is that something that would be viewed as relevant enough to mention in these findings?
I think so.
Dick, I think the answer to that question would be yes, if that's what the evidence bears out.
Okay.
How sure are we of this to be true?
We're quite sure of this being true, Mr. Chairman. This is like a very, this was definitely a very low income working class area. It was not it was not a pleasant place to live, considering the stench of the Miller River that was filled with like animal carcasses and refuse from the slaughterhouse industry and all sorts of filth and bile. It ran, so the Miller River's been filled in, but take note for anybody who's developing here is that that filled in river runs right behind these lots and right through Union Square. So hopefully you won't find too many horse bones, but it was really a lousy place to live in the very, very early days. It was marshy to start with, so there were challenges with building. And then when the river was, before the river was filled in, it was really quite putrid. So, yeah.
Because I think it's important to note that when we look at the cultural attributes of an area or of a building, that it's not just where the wealthy or the well-to-do or the politicians and the famous live. It's part of the structure that made Somerville what it is, which was a working class blue collar city.
That's absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman. And if I could add really quickly for those in the audience, one of the differences about historic preservation in the United States versus in other countries versus Europe, particularly England, is we don't, in the US, we recognize the importance of not just the wealthy classes, right? It's the working classes on which this city and all others were built. It's about the stories that they tell, and imbued in these houses is the stories of those people. We might have forgotten about them and we might not know all their names, but we do try to bring that back to life. And if you can't recognize where you came from, you don't know where you're going to go. Or if you choose to forget where you came from, whether you've been here all your life or not, then I think you do yourself a disservice to not remember these things. And we only are where we are because of the people who came before us. So it is extremely important to the historic preservation field in the US that we pay a significant attention to all classes, not just the highest and best style. And that's very, very different from the way the rest of the world treats it.
And that also goes for their buildings, because we don't look just to preserve the beautiful, big, large Queen Anne single family homes, but also the humble workers' cottages.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, given all that, are we prepared to accept those findings, adding in the cultural and historic aspects of the population that actually lived in this environment? in this area. All those in favor of accepting those findings, please say aye.
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 And once again, we'll do the roll call. That's Dick,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
I say yes. Adam,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Mark.
Yes.
And moving on to the rear of 2123, the larger building. Would somebody like to propose some findings for that? We looked at the massing and the form and architectural details, including the cornice, the brackets, wooden gutters, and the integrity of the building.
I would just add that, the integrity, to the fact that it's so much of it remains. Sides, windows.
I add specifically the windows to that list.
I'm really amazed it survived actually this far. Granted, it's a little bit newer than the others, but yeah.
It was hidden in the back and nobody saw it, so it got to remain.
It's quite an interesting looking building, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, and this would have been, I presume, an apartment building of some sort? Sarah?
You know, Mr. Chairman, it's hard to say, and based on the way your vote is going, hopefully we'll have more information for next time from census data. More than likely, this was all boarding.
Residential.
Yeah, oh, definitely residential. I mean, the historic maps are very clear on that because you can tell from the colors they choose and the various markings that they put on their building structures, which was residential, which was a barn, which was a stable, which was brick, which was whatever. So these were all residential on this lot. Yes.
Okay, well, with the addition of the windows, which was noted by Dick Bauer, is there anything else we need to add to those findings? Given that, what I'd like to do is take a vote on those findings as we've articulated. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And once again, the roll call, that's Dick.
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay. So we've declared these three structures to be historically significant to the city of Somerville. If the applicants are still here, which I presume they are, I presume that you heard earlier my explanation of the process. But next month, we would hear at our meeting some discussion on the preferably preserved status of these structures. And if we decide then that they become preferably preserved as to what that means, and we will have up to 12 months to be able to discuss and come to a meeting of the minds as to the disposition. So thank you. And Sarah White will no doubt staff be in touch with you.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. And thank you for the members of the public who contributed comment. What I'd like to do now is move on to 27 Allen Street, which is HPC.DMO 2021.03. And I'm presuming, because the owner is the same owner, that the same applicant's attorneys are here.
Yes.
All right, would you like to tell us about this, please?
All right, well, thanks to the commission for your consideration on the previous matter. 27 Allen Street is a single structure, two-family building built in 1890, about 1,500 feet. And we are similarly seeking full demolition of that building.
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to open this up to commissioners for discussion and comment.
Hi, it's Robin, and as with the last properties, you know, I referenced this as being part of that streetscape. So this structure seems to retain its original form and massing and contributes to that grouping, to the streetscape, that grouping of similarly proportioned houses.
Thank you, Robin.
This is Mark. This one to me seems more like the first one we considered on Allen Street rather than the last three. It doesn't seem, it's a tough call, but it doesn't seem like there's enough left from the original one to be significant. Much as I hate to disagree with my learned colleague.
Thank you, Mark. Adam, Eric?
I would agree. I mean, it's from Sarah's report, it appears this was built 30-ish, 40 maybe years later than the others. At least it shows up on later maps, but not the earlier. But it's clearly, it's far enough back that it's still, I think, reflective of that same environment that those houses were created in and the types of people that were living there. And they kind of duplicated the general massing and the presentation to the street. So it's sort of, I would more or less copy my same thoughts from the front two buildings, last case, 2123, where it has the same kind of presence in the streetscape. I would acknowledge what Mark said is it's a little bit newer and it's, but I think it's far enough back that I still lump it into that category.
This is Dick, and I think I would agree with Eric on this. I want to note that the windows on the side facing the street are almost certainly not the way it originally was, both as to location and as to sizes of them, but the windows on the side of the house, which is functionally the front, are probably closer to the original. And so taking the overall massing and that part of the fabric and the streetscape, I think would be enough to push me in the direction of saying that it's significant.
Robin, do you have any thoughts on this from the realtor's perspective?
No, I mean, not from a realtor perspective, just what I noted previously, that it's, you know, appears to have its original form and massing and contributes to the streetscape of those very similarly scaled houses.
All right. It would appear to me that the back porches seem to be a later addition as well. But I see the original massing and proportions, and it looks to be quite well preserved and intact and have good integrity. Anybody like to make any other comments before I pass this to the public for comment? Okay, with that, I'd like to ask if there's any members of the public present. This is we are seeking any public input on this. So if there's any members of the public who'd like to comment, please raise your hand. Charlotte, are you seeing anybody?
This is Charlotte speaking. I am not seeing anyone raising their hand or indicating that they would wish to speak.
All right. Then what I'd like to do is I'd like to close the public section of this and move straight back to the commissioners so that we can see if there are any other things they'd like to add before we take this to a vote on significance. Okay, hearing nothing, we're going to vote on 27 Allen Street as the significance of this property, which is HPC.DMO 2021.03. All those in favor of declaring this significant, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to do the roll call again. That's Dick.
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mark?
No.
No. All right. And the reasons for declaring this significant, our findings would be that we find that the building to be consistent in the streetscape, have the integrity, and anybody like to add more to that?
No, probably copy the same comments about worker housing, though this one's a bit newer, but it still has the same demographic.
Yeah, the cultural side.
At that time.
But culturally, this is part of the working fabric of Somerville and represents that.
Of the industries that were in
the industry. Okay. Any other findings that we could add to that? Okay. Given not hearing any, I'd like to put it to a vote that we accept those findings as stated. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Dick? Roll
Yes.
call. Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mark?
Abstain.
Okay. All right, so we have found 27 Allen Street to be historically significant to the city of Somerville. And next month, we'll hear this as a preferably preserved matter. Is the applicant aware of all of this? Is the applicant still there? Okay.
Yes, we're here. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay. Thank you very much for your application, and we'll see you next month.
Great. Thanks again for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. Okay, I'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda, which I'm not sure. Sarah, you said that 373 Washington Street had withdrawn their application, or had you withdrawn it because it wasn't 75 years?
Well, two things, Mr. Chairman. So thank you. So yeah, so realizing that it wasn't 75 years of age, it didn't hit the threshold for your review. However, because it had already been advertised, we had to have the applicant formally withdraw it. So I sent them the withdrawal and they sent back the signed withdrawal this afternoon.
Okay. So do we need, as a matter of procedure, to be able to vote on allowing that to be withdrawn from the agenda?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to put to the commissioners that HPC.DMO 2021.04373 Washington Street was identified as being a structure that is not 75 years of age or older, and therefore not eligible for our purview, but it was advertised in the agenda, and we'd like to formally withdraw it from the agenda. All those in favor of accepting that, please say aye.
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 And we'll do a roll call. That's Dick.
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yeah.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
Okay. Then with that done, let's move on to the next item on the list, which is item 6, HPC.DMO 2021.05, 377 Washington Street. The applicant, Thomas Nikoulas. I think I pronounced that correctly. It looks like a Greek name to me. Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here, Mr. Chairman, and also Ann Vigorito is here representing the applicant. And Ann, I have unmuted you. If you could unmute yourself.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ann Vigorito on behalf of the applicant, Thomas Nikoulas, 377 Washington. He's also on. He won't speak unless it's necessary. Just to give you a brief overview. This is a single family house on this site. As I read through the report, it appears that it could have been built prior to 1874, 1860, so it's an extremely old house. There has been some modification of the house, though. There were some modern brick front steps, I think the front door as well. The house has been vacant for, oh gosh, maybe a year and a half or so. The woman that had owned it, unfortunately, had passed away in the home. But you know, as we look at it, it retains a high degree of integrity, but you know, with the original massing, but there's also been, you know, updates and so forth to this house over the years. You know, we would view it as not being historically significant, and would respectfully request that not at this point.
And I'm presuming your intent is to demolish the building in its entirety.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open this up now for discussion with the commissioners.
Hi, it's Robin Kelly. I've always been intrigued by this house because of its the amount of original stuff it retains and its original massing and form. It obviously has not been beautifully maintained over the years, but there is still so much original good stuff there. I can't imagine not seeing this as significant.
Yep, this is Eric. I would totally agree. This is everything we're looking for. I mean, but for the upkeep, which is just a coat of paint and some wood repair, everything's there. The brackets, the siding. I can't quite tell. The windows might even be original. It's hard to tell from this picture.
I think some of them are, Eric.
Okay.
There's quite a bit of woodwork that needs to be done. There's quite a bit of deteriorated wood through a lack of maintenance, which has brought in some rot. And that's in evidence not only in the bay window at the front, but also in the front door area, including the shelter over the door.
I actually suspect that the shingles are over the clapboard roof there. The profile, but that's.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a dream house for anybody who wants an old place to fix up because there's relatively little you have to do to it. It's on the outside.
Other commissioners' thoughts?
This is Dick, and I would echo what other people have said about it. And I want to add that in addition to the structure itself, it's on a relatively large piece of land, which gives some sense of what Somerville was like at the time that the house was built, even though it is surrounded by industrial buildings on both sides.
Yeah, the backyard is rather large. A big block of land. Adam, Ryan, did you have any thoughts on this?
I support and agree with all the comments that have been made so far. It's a unique place.
Yep, I agree with everything. I pass by and look at this house every day when I bring my son to school. So I in a different way, actually, I think it's an important part of the streetscape. Similar structures around it, but because it kind of stands out as a older home, that's important to be there. So that's all I have to add.
Yeah, my initial thoughts as I went down the first time to look at this before I knew that this was on the agenda, because the original agenda came out, just had 373 on it. And I looked at 373 and thought, well, that has zero historical significance. And I looked at 377 next door and I thought, what a beautiful old house. I'm glad that's not on our list. But unfortunately, it did pop up on the list. So I've had two opportunities to look at this, and it's a sort of house that would be absolutely lovely to fix up and restore. It's quite close to the Cambridge line, in fact. All right, so let me put this out to the public. Is there anybody in the public who would like to comment on this? Charlotte, are you seeing any hands raised?
This is Charlotte speaking. Thomas Nicholas, you are unmuted.
That's Tom Lachulis. He is the.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tom Lachulis. I'm the owner. And in addition to being the owner, I'm also a licensed builder. So I just thought I'd give you my comments real quick in regards to the structure or the quality of the house. And I don't know if that's part of the historic review, but I figured I'd at least mention it. Again, I've been a licensed builder for 25 years. There is a broken center beam. The sill is rotted out. The foundation is crumbling. The siding is 1950-ish on top of vinyl. There are vinyl windows. The entrance doors are circa 1960. There are interior modifications. The house is falling down. The only thing that is historic about it is the shape of it. Other than that, it needs a new roof. It needs new beams or new joists in the attic. And so the house is crumbling. I just figured I'd at least mention that.
This is Charlotte speaking. No one else has their hand raised at this time.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. And thank you, Thomas. I hope I did justice to your surname earlier when I tried to pronounce it. I apologize if I didn't. So hearing no one else, what I'd like to do in the public segment is bring this back now and close the public segment, bring this back to the commissioners, see if there's anything the commissioners would like to add to this.
Well, I guess I'll just respond to some of Thomas's comments. I think the challenging part for us is that everything you described is obviously we cannot see from the outside. So typically when there's real concerns for structural integrity, there's either photographs of evidence or some kind of structural engineering report that states some of that. But I've also been in the building industry my whole life, and it's just hard, from the outside, there's no visible evidence that the building is falling apart, and it looks fairly true and straight and stable. So just for future reference, I think it's important to provide evidence of the things that you described, because we can't see any of that.
Thank you, Adam.
This is Dick, and I just wanted to add to what Adam said. It is not uncommon for old houses to have some of those kinds of aspects. That's simply part of what life is like with a house that's 100 or 120 or 140 years old. But as Adam said, the building by appearance seems to be straight and true, and it does not appear that if there are structural problems that they are serious or difficult to remedy.
And Eric, here, just as an architect, it's like if someone bought that house and they're going to gut it and do stuff inside, where that's sort of, I don't want to say it's a drop in the bucket, but it's just like, okay, maybe they pay less, $100,000 less for it. It's all kind of subjective. You can't. It's up to the eye of whoever intends to own the place. And I suspect with a place that's that remarkable and such a large lot that people would snatch it up and say, "Fine, I'll do some foundation repair and maybe put some posts in the basement or whatever." But it's kind of a hard thing just to throw in the towel and say, "All right, this house is too far gone because it needs still work, foundations." It's all part of the big soup.
All right, does anybody else have any things they'd like to add to that? Okay, then are we ready to put this to the vote? I think so. We're going to vote on 377 Washington Street. This is an application for significance. It's HPC.DMO 2021.05. All those in favor of declaring this significant, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to do the roll call on that one. Dick?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay, now we need to look at our findings as to why we've actually declared this significant. And what I have is that it has the original detail massing and the integrity that we can see from the outside of the structural building. And it is a unique house in that particular area. Is there anything else that we need to add to that? We don't know anything about the cultural attributes of this property that are significant, do we?
No, we don't.
Dick, have you got anything you'd like to add to those findings?
Did the importance of it on the street get mentioned?
It's a good example of an Italianate, I mean, of its time frame too. It's a good reflection of its style.
All right. Then let's take a vote on those findings. Adam, did you get those findings down?
Yep, I got them.
Okay, good. We'll take a vote on those. All those in favor of accepting those findings, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And we'll do the roll call, which is Dick.
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
I say yes. Adam.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
And Mark.
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Luculis, we've actually, and Debarito, we found the structure to be significant. This starts the process, which I think I explained earlier. Did you understand the process? And were you listening when I explained it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So next month, we'll have a look at preferably preserved status of the structure. And as a thought, if you'd like to present images of the things that you feel are important back to staff, to Sarah White at the city, we'll put those into the record so that we can consider those as well. If that's possible, could you do that as well?
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Sarah, you have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. And to that end, Anne, if you could make sure that, you know, whatever photos you provide are very specifically labeled, like if it's like the foundation on the right side, on the right elevation of the main part of the house, please label it as such. If it's like the center beam, please label it as such, that type of thing. That would be, that then orients me, and then I won't have to go back and then ask you to do that again.
No problem.
Yes.
Definitely.
Thank you.
More information,
Thanks.
and the better described it is, makes it easier for us to contemplate these decisions.
Definitely. Okay. We'll get that over to Sarah well before the next meeting.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And thank you for your application, for coming and talking.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye. Okay. That ends the agenda business for the public portion of it. And now what I'd like to do is come on to the other business, which is the minutes. And we have the minutes for, I think it's November is the only one I saw. Is that correct, Sarah?
Mr. Chairman, there's one from, so the November 4th one is not available, but the November 17th one is available and the December 15th is available in the same email.
Well, I read the November one and thought it basically summed it up quite well, but I didn't read the December one. Has everybody had a chance to look at these? Actually, I have read the December ones. Does anybody have any comments or any changes or additions to the November minutes that are presented to us?
I have none.
And the December ones, any comments or alterations to the December minutes? Okay. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to put this to a vote to accept these minutes, both the November and the December ones as submitted to us. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Ellie, can we do these separately?
You want to do them separately?
If we could, I was not at the November meeting, and so I intend to abstain on that one.
All right, then let's do them separately. For the November meeting, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I'll do the roll call on that. That's Dick.
This is November.
In November.
And so for November, for November, I'm abstaining.
Okay. Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mark?
Abstain.
Okay, and now for the December minutes. All those in favor of accepting them as presented, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We'll do the roll call again. That's Dick.
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
I say yes. Adam?
Yes.
Eric? And Mark?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, thank you. The other next piece of business on the agenda is HBC officer roles. Sarah, would you like to explain what you mean by this, please?
Yes. And I'll let Mark speak, but I'm sorry to say or to remind you all that unfortunately this is Mark's last meeting. And he will no longer be on the commission after this. And so I know from my perspective in the nearly 6 years I've been working with you all, I can truly say, Mark, it is honestly and absolutely completely been my absolute pleasure to be working with you. Your pragmatism, your dedication, and all your input have been extremely appreciated and extremely valued, and you will be missed. And I wish you the best in all the free time you're going to now have once a month on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think I've really enjoyed working with you, Mark, and appreciate your contributions. Critical eye.
So where are you going, Mark? What's going on? What's your story?
Well, thank you all for your kind comments. I've certainly learned a lot more from you than you have from me, and it's a pleasure to walk around the city and look at it through your eyes sometimes and pick up on things that I had missed long before then. My life has just become too unpredictable. You know, I missed the first part of the meeting tonight, not because I didn't want to be here, just State House duties have gotten, I think, more intense during COVID is probably the best way to do it. I don't know that we're doing it more, but we're doing it more inefficiently. So it's just harder to have the predictability and the time to devote to all this. So it's no reflection on the commission, except that you deserve a vice chair and a member who could contribute to it with more time and energy and attention than I've been able to do so the last few months, for which I apologize. But I appreciate the opportunity to have worked with all the members, all the staff, and to hear the inputs from members of the public. It's been a tremendous amount of fun, and I wish you only and all the best. And when you're meeting in person again someday, I will stop by as a member of the public just to, you know, see what's going on and to enjoy it and heckle from that perspective, and then to storm out. So thank you all.
Well, Mark, when we get back to having a Christmas party again, I don't know when that'll be, because that'll be in person. I'd definitely like to have you on the invite list.
Well, I would welcome that
next year.
opportunity. Thank you.
So Mark, I wanted to say that it's totally character for you to be stepping down because you can't give it. I've always been impressed by your seriousness of purpose and your commitment and your responsible way that you go about doing things. And I want to thank you for that. You've really made big contributions to the commission. And we'll miss you.
I'm hoping that we're going to see Mark's name coming forward with like Boston Police Commissioner or something like that. Yeah.
Always a staff person, never a front man. You know, I've got a face for radio. That's why you guys can't see me now. So something's gone horribly wrong if you see my name there.
We got to you're too valuable.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Nice. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, everyone.
The last item on the list is the CPC update. Basically, as you know, I've taken over that role in the interim period until the next elections, when no doubt we'll be voting for a number of positions. And for the CPC, basically, there are a couple of things that have happened that I think are interesting. Grace Church, which is down, has had several applications, and they've been had several funding grants already given to them. Had put in an application which was going before the CPC for funding, which involved a number of things, including things like replacing the front doors and so on, none of which came before the commission. So some of that funding was held back, and some of it was that had come before the commission was approved, but some of it wasn't, stuff that hadn't come before the commission. As part of the CPC grant for historic preservation, the applicants need to bring their project before the commission for approval. And these things weren't approved, so that actually got bounced back. We have next Wednesday night is another CPC meeting, and I will be talking to the CPC about our fund, which is our discretionary fund, which is coming up, which after over 3 years of trying to get this fund of $150,000 that we can apply to assist people with ensuring that their projects in local historic districts are restored appropriately. It looks like that is coming to pass, so that we'll have that very soon, which is really good news. So that's something that I'll be talking to the CPC about. The other thing that I have been speaking to CPC about is the way several of the instructions are placed out in the public. Sometimes properties that qualify are referred to as local historic districts that are city or state, and other places they're referred to as national or city. And basically I want to get that changed to reduce any confusion, so it's city, state or federal. Basically anything that becomes a national becomes a local historic district anyway, but we just need to clarify and make the language more inclusive so it cuts out any confusion. I think that's basically all. I've been trying to soften the image of the Historic Preservation Commission from one of being a largely reactive body into one that is more consultative and probably a little bit more informative and helpful, which is kind of difficult because typically we don't find out about things until somebody puts in an application to change something or knock something down. But we're still trying with that. So, and we have a lot of little issues that are going along. I'm working with Sarah on a couple of different little projects. One is that lovely building on the corner of Bow and Somerville Avenue, which has just gone through an extensive exterior renovation. So we've got a number of different funding projects coming up. We've tried to clarify some things, particularly I think the Somerville Museum had an issue. They had a number of things that they applied for. Some were approved, some weren't. For instance, the approval went through for CPC funding for mold remediation and a few things like that. But the approval was not forthcoming for a security camera, which is something they thought they should have. However, I think, as we pointed out to them, that had it been, for instance, a fire alarm that they wanted or something like that, then yes, that would preserve something, but a security camera doesn't fit into that purview. So we've actually tried to work to tighten down, because there's so many applicants come in, tighten down exactly what qualifies and what doesn't. Sarah has been particularly active in this, working with Judith, and I've been basically feet on the ground extension for Sarah, being locally here while she's up luxuriating in beautiful Newburyport.
Yeah, eating bonbons all day. That's all I do till 1:30 in the morning. That's right. No, Alan, you've been like a tremendous help, because you're there all the time. And even when I am there, even when we are back in the city, you know, I can't always get out of the office all the time. So it's, you've been a tremendous help.
So during this time, I've just become an extension of Sarah.
That's right. And you have more hair now too.
I have a lot more hair now. My hair is now longer than Dick's beard. Not to mention Adam's beard.
That's right.
But that's basically all I have. I'll give you an update next month on what transpires a week from tomorrow with the CPC. If there's any changes in that, I'll keep you informed. But hopefully we'll get applicants coming before us to talk about the projects before they expect to receive money from the CPC in the future for the process, right? You have a question, Sarah?
Yes, if I could, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So a couple of things. Do you, so now that we know, officially that tonight is Mark's last meeting, we do need a vice chair. So could we go back to that, and do you want to bring up if there's anybody interested in it, or do you want to bring that up for next time, or how do you want to approach that?
Well, I think we should put that on the agenda for next month. Right. And our annual meeting, when we elect officers, is when? That's in April?
May.
May. And I'd like to tell people that I will be standing down as chair at that particular point in time as well. So I'd like
But you
people
will
to
remain
consider.
on the commission, yes?
Yeah, the reason I'm doing this is because we're very seriously contemplating moving to Jersey.
Not New Jersey, for the
Not New
record.
Jersey, the Isle of Jersey and the Channel Islands.
But
So-
you will remain on the commission in the meantime?
Yes, I would remain on the commission, but I don't think it's fair to be to continue being chair after May, given that we don't know exactly when we're going or when we can go, or timing of things. But that's the plan anyway. So I'd like people to keep that in mind. Okay.
Well, we will miss you as chair, but be very glad that you're still on the commission. So know everybody, you've got a couple things to be thinking about, okay? Because I can't run it. I mean, I could, but I'm not allowed, so.
Okay, well, with that, if there's no further thoughts or comments or business, I'd like to ask for a motion to close the meeting.
The motion to close the meeting.
Ryan moves. Is there a seconder?
Mark would like to second.
Mark, thank you, Mark. The final act of Mark Stoneman.
William moves.
From the CPC. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
No need for a roll call. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night,
Thanks,
everyone. Thank
everyone.
you. Mr. Mark.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.